What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dre. This is Dre Created, and in today's video I want to talk about breaking the habit of being yourself. We're so accustomed to thinking according to what our senses can interpret. We're so accustomed to looking at our environment and engaging with our environment in a way that we don't consider what could be. We just consider what we see right in front of us, what we can hear, what we can smell, what we can taste, what we can feel. And if we even allow ourselves just for a brief moment to consider what could be, and if we express that to other people, they call us crazy. Oh, that doesn't make any sense. You don't make any sense. That's nonsense. But the world belongs to those that create it. And those that create it, they have visions of what could be before they make it tangible. The people that invented airplanes, I always think about what they sounded like to the people around them. Like, imagine airplanes not being a thing, and you say to the person beside you, yeah, I believe that there's a better way for us to travel. I believe that people will, at some point in time, travel by air. And I don't know exactly how that's possible, or I don't know how I'll make it possible yet, but I know that it's possible. I just haven't figured it out yet. You can't picture it because it hasn't been done, but anything and everything is possible. You just haven't figured out how to do it yet. Everything already exists. So if we measure and if we reaffirm reality according to our senses, we're then stuck in this Newtonian paradigm. In the process of creating a future reality, our senses should be the last to experience a future reality. Our senses should be the last thing to experience what the mind already knew to be true. So essentially shifting your attention away from your external environment, and you have to go within and consider what could be rather than what already is. This kind of thinking forces you to separate your identity from everything that already exists in your reality. When you ask yourself the question, what do I want my life to look like? You have to separate yourself from who you are presently. You have to separate yourself from everything that you identify with presently. Even though it might be difficult, you have to be objective in the way that you view your life. You have to separate yourself from your thoughts, and you have to see yourself as the creator rather than looking at life from the perspective of the created. Does that make sense? So your life exactly as it is, whether you were conscious of it or not, it's what you already created for yourself. All of the decisions that you made leading up to this exact moment in time, including the decisions that you haven't made, are reflected in your current reality. So if you want to evoke change in your life, you have to separate yourself from that reality. You have to separate yourself from your current way of thinking, and you have to analyze yourself and consider, well, if I want a life that looks like this, how would I have to behave? Who would I spend the most of my time with? What would I be doing? What would my routine look like? How would I approach my problems? How do I handle conflict? How do I handle stress? What does the version of me that I'm aspiring to be spend the majority of their time doing? When you're playing a video game, you're the one that's commanding the character. You're the one that's commanding the avatar. You aren't the avatar. You're the one that's commanding the avatar. That's the exact same way that you need to approach making fundamental changes within who you are. Because if your objective is to live a better life, whatever that may mean, according to what you want, then you need to focus on being who you need to become. And by doing that, you'll also find yourself doing what you need to do in order to have things that you want to have. It's called be, do, have in that exact order. If you think of anybody that is living a successful life, anyone that's living a quality life, replicate what they do, replicate the way that they behave, consider and study the way that they view life, because we're all capable of doing whatever we want. We're all capable of being whoever we want to be, but you have to be intentional about the things you think, and you have to be intentional about the things that you do. And you have to be consistent. You don't just wake up one day out of the week and decide, okay, today I'm going to brush my teeth and expect to have good oral hygiene. You wake up and you brush your teeth every single day. It comes with consistency. Anything that you want out of life requires you to consistently be the person that does what needs to be done in order to get the expected outcome. So, yes, consistency is what's required once you have an understanding of this model: be, do, have. You can't just be this person one day out of the week. You can't just do this one thing in a particular day one day out of the week and expect to have this quality of life for the rest of your life. It requires you to show up every single day as that person and do the things that that person needs to do in order to have the things that that person has. I love to use the analogy of going to the gym because I myself, I go to the gym routinely. I've been doing it for years and it pays to be consistently physically active. I go when I don't feel like it, and it's one of the ways I hold myself accountable when it comes down to being disciplined. I went this morning. Did I want to go? No, I did not want to go. I did not feel like going. And I caught myself in the act. I was making up excuses for myself. I told myself I'm too tired. I told myself I'll go tomorrow. I told myself I can find some other way to be physically active at home. But I know myself well enough to know that if I try to do a workout at home, I'm not going to do it properly. I might do 50 push ups and consider it done. And that's obviously not, it's just not effective. It's not effective. And I found myself telling myself these lies. And I do this thing where I immediately shut down. I shut down this stream of excuses I find myself making. And I go in autopilot mode and I just do it. Like Nike, they had, like, that's their slogan, right? Just do it. And it works. It's so simple. It's so straight to the point. And people, they want shortcuts. They want the secret formula. They want easy. They want it to be easy, but the reality is that it's not. Consistency can be very boring, and the reality is that you just got to do it. And not just today, you got to do it tomorrow too. And not just tomorrow, but you have to do it for the rest of your life. If you want to continue to get the results that you've been getting, you can't stop. Like, consider the way that animals in the wild, they hunt and it doesn't stop. Every single day that a lion wakes up out in the savannah or wherever it is that lions are, you don't just wake up, they don't just wake up one day and decide, I'm not going to be a lion today. You have to get up and you have to hunt every day, otherwise you starve. I feel like I kind of went off on a tangent there. So let's go back to separating yourself from your external environment. Try this. Really go within yourself, close your eyes, and think to yourself, who do I want to be? What do I want to look like? Envision that version of you and ask yourself, what is the difference between this version of me and who I'm playing the part of right now? What is the difference between the things I do today versus the things that I should be doing so that I can become the person that has the things that I want for myself? You have to see it in your mind before you can bring it into the tangible, before you can make it tangible. You have to see it in your mind before you can live it, because your external reality is just a reflection of your internal reality, as within, so without. In order to influence your reality, you have to completely let go of your external world. You have to release your awareness of the body and you have to really become the mind. You have to become pure consciousness and you have to be really aware of yourself. So think about it for a moment. What opportunities are out there waiting for you if you would just actively decide to become aware of them and aware of your ability, and more importantly, aware of your ability to achieve these opportunities, to take advantage of these opportunities? Who are you choosing to be in this moment? And then ask yourself, is my current way of being realistically going to lead me to a life that I actually want for myself? You know, I find most times we already know the answer. You already know what you need to do. You already know what you should be doing, and you're actively choosing mediocrity. And by doing so, it leaves you feeling unfulfilled and unhappy and unsatisfied because you know that you're capable of more. You know that you're capable of doing anything. Success requires you to think greater and bigger than the circumstances of your life. Creating a new life for yourself requires you to create new neural pathways inside of your brain. If you consider how much of your behavior is automatic, how much of your routine is automatic, and if you actually consciously and actively made an effort to think differently, by default, you would behave differently. Think of all the things that you do without actively thinking about it. And then consider what your life could look like if you stopped operating on autopilot and if you were more intentional with the decisions that you made. The difference between you and the person that you view as successful is their awareness and their willingness to act on the things that they're aware of. That's it. First, you have to become aware that you can be better. First, you have to become aware that you can do better. You have to become aware that you can have more. You have to become aware of your capability. You have to become aware of the life that's waiting for you if you would just find the courage and the discipline to go after it. The person that you are right now can only get you so far. At some point, you're going to have to adapt and become someone that's capable of doing more. You're going to have to adapt and become the greater version of yourself in order to live a greater life for yourself. Does that make sense? The person that got you this far can't go any further. It's kind of like, I believe it's called metamorphosis. Either way, your brain is automatically firing on existing circuits that already reflect your current way of thinking. Your brain is automatically firing on circuits that reflect everything you already know and everything that you've already experienced. From the moment you wake up every morning, your senses plug you into the same reality and initiates the same stream of consciousness. So here you're able to see how we find ourselves living in this loop, the same thing over and over and over and over again, until we make a conscious decision to break that loop. Familiar memories associated with your present reality remind you to reproduce the same experiences. So, in a sense, it's kind of like your environment is controlling your mind because your environment is everything that you already know. So, in order to get a different output, you have to have a new input. You have to change some sequence in your biological equation or your mental equation in order to get a different result. You reproduce the same level of mind by reminding yourself of who you think you are according to your outer world. And in this way, your identity becomes defined by everything outside of you when really it should be the other way around. You should define your outer world based on your inner identity rather than having your environment tell you who you are. And so it's important to not identify yourself with all of the elements in your outer world, experiencing the same feelings over and over and over again. And in this way, your body becomes the mind. You become enslaved to your environment in this way. And your thinking has become equal to the conditions of your life rather than your thinking defining the conditions of your life. So whether you realize it or not, you then find yourself nurturing a mind that reaffirms a reality that you don't want for yourself. And then you become reactive by reacting to everything outside of you when the real work is done by reflecting on your inner world, your thought. Stand guard at the door of your mind. I'm a true believer in living according to your own script. It's so very important for you to follow your own narrative because if you don't follow your narrative, you're going to find yourself living for somebody else rather than living for yourself. We were all given the gift of life. Never mind all of the hardships, all of the challenges, all of the heartbreak that some of us have to overcome. I truly do believe that life is worth living, and I believe that everybody should be conscious in choosing their own path. And so it's important to fight against this ceaseless monotony that a lot of people struggle with on a day-to-day basis. And it literally starts with deciding to do that. You're one decision away from a different life. And no, it's not that simple because it requires you to make that same decision again and again and again. In the same way you've been choosing not to make this decision that you know will change your life, and by not making this decision, you've produced a life you don't want. So you may as well make the decision that will give you what you do want. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense, because I know what I'm trying to say, but I'm not exactly sure if it's coming out the right way. Our brains don't know the difference between our external world and our internal world, so our thoughts become our experience. The final thing I would like to say is that if we cannot think greater than we feel, we can never change. To change is to think greater than you feel. That's how it starts. All that being said, to change is to think greater than we feel. And to change is to act greater than this version of you that you've already memorized for yourself. You have to step outside of yourself, do the inner work, do the internal work in order to get a different result. A different input means a different output, and nothing changes if nothing changes. I hope you found something valuable from this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.